My name is Coach Madere.
What do you do?
I am a strength and conditioning coordinator at a 5A high school in Texas.
Lovely. What got you into strength training?
So I grew up playing sports. I played football in Texas at a high school here. I wouldn't have described myself as a bad football player. I was good enough to play on varsity, but football was not what I loved. I loved everything outside of football. I loved getting stronger, getting faster, doing all the work that went into being a football player. And as I saw my high school career coming to an end and it was time to look at what I wanted to do next, I knew that I wanted to be around sports, but I didn't want to do one sport over others. I didn't want to actually coach the sport itself. I wanted to be around them. And strength and conditioning was one of the ways that spoke to me the most. I had considered physical therapy, athletic training, but both of those things require athletes to be broken first. I would rather see them before they're broken and hopefully prevent some of that from happening. So it was a desire to be around sports, not loving one sport more than the other, and figuring this was the best way to see as many sports as possible.
Beautiful. How old are you? You're like a youth in the youth.
I am 27.
Okay, wow. And why did you pick schools instead of any gym?
So I actually originally did not pick schools. I had previously, for the last 3.5-ish years, worked in the private sector for a company that would get contracted out to schools. So I've always worked with elementary, middle school, and high school age athletes, but it was through a process in which they would pay my company and we would come and train a group of them all together. An opportunity at a high school opened up. Someone that I knew closely was leaving this position to go take the same job at another high school, and they personally asked if I would work at this high school that we are currently at now, which is, interestingly enough, the school that I was contracted to the most with the company that I worked for. So I already knew coaches, I already knew athletes, so it was an obvious choice for me to come fill in and just take this spot.
Lovely. What are some of the challenges that you have seen and you're trying to overcome that for the next generation here?
So within the high school, I am responsible for, and again, just the strength and the speed work, but I'm responsible for 14 teams. That's a varsity team and then their freshman correspondent. So that's a lot of teams that I have to write workouts for. I cannot be with all of them. And so it's one of the biggest challenges, I would say, is being comfortable with who I'm delegating workouts to, which is often an assistant coach of a sport, not someone whose expertise is the weight room. And so the challenge is making sure when I provide workouts to these coaches, am I giving them enough information that they can effectively run the weight room the way that I would if I was there, because I can't always be with them. I have to leave one sport to go train another. So I think the challenge is just volume of teams and volume of athletes that need my assistance.
What can the youth learn from you better here so that they really get the most out of their life as a career in athletics or sports?
One of the best things that the weight room teaches, and it's independent of sport, but the weight room teaches delayed gratification. So you have to show up to the weight room every day, every week, and you will not get stronger after the first 2 days. You probably won't even get stronger after the first 7 days. The weight room is something that requires everything that you could possibly give, and it's not even guaranteeing that it's gonna give anything back. And so it teaches kids patience and discipline, and knowing that even if I don't leave every day, knowing that I can lift 5 more pounds or I weigh 1 more pound of muscle, that I have to trust that as long as I continue to trudge along at this one task, good things will come to me. And I think I don't like being the this generation guy, but I feel like that's really something with how short our media has gotten and how quick everybody views things and ingests information and then digests it and dumps it out. I think understanding that truly the best things require you to work very, very hard without any kind of guarantee that you're gonna get a reward at the end. And the weight room is one of the best places to teach that.
How do you motivate these youth in terms of continuing to do what you want them to see results after, doing all the practice and strength training?
Fortunately, this is a place where, because they've had a strength coach for so long before I was here, for the most part, the kids do understand that when you go to the weight room with your team, that is an extension of your practice. Not all kids always understand or grasp the concept. One of the analogies that I try to give that has worked, it works with middle school kids really well. So 8th graders coming into 9th grade for the first time, getting them to understand, I understand you play basketball and you like to be able to shoot and do layups, but it's important to be strong and fast too. I talk about a car race. So you have a race car driver who has to be good at steering the wheel. He has to know the track. He has to be good at pressing the pedal and the clutch and changing the brake and changing the gears. but also he has to be driving a car that can go very, very fast. And so at a certain point in time, no matter how good you get at driving the car, you could be Mario Andretti, but if you're in a go-kart that tops out at 25 miles an hour, you can't beat people that are driving Lamborghinis simply because the vehicle you are in is not strong enough. So I always tell them, when you go to practice, that's like going to the track and driving the car and getting better at the skill of driving. But when you come to the weight room, we're changing out the tires for better tread. We're putting a bigger V10 race engine in there over the V8 that we might have had before. So we're just doing things to enhance their physical attributes that will then allow them to better express the skills they have in sports. And like I said, it works with a lot of them, but it doesn't work with everybody. There are, to this day, seniors that don't quite appreciate or love the weight room, but they come because their coaches make them. So that's also part of it too.
What do you see for these youth once they get out of school, them do, or do you have aspirations for them?
I do have aspirations for them. They're not very specific. I want kids to be disciplined through themselves, meaning I want, whether they have a job or they're going to college, I want them to understand that no one's going to wake them up but except themselves. I want kids to be tough, and toughness comes in a variety of forms. Obviously, I want them to be physically tough, but also I want their mind to have built up some calluses by having gone through some difficulties. So when they go through difficulties in life, it's not the first time their psychology has had to experience it. I also want kids that do the right thing when nobody's looking, because that's one of the hardest things to do. It's integrity. Is even if no one's around to give you a reward for doing the right thing, that it's important to do it anyway. And that can be the weight room too. There might not be a coach watching you, but if you're asked to do 4 sets of 6 reps, you should do 4 sets of 6 reps, because it's what everybody in here is doing, and it's what you've agreed to do, even if no one's watching you for it. And I think that that can be extrapolated out to after school of, no matter who's watching, you do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Do you think there is a future for them in what you do, or they can pick from here and then continue doing it?
Absolutely. So this field, it's still relatively young, and I would say young. I think the NSCA, so the National Strength Conditioning Association, has been certifying people for maybe 25, maybe 30 years, which in the grand scheme of an entire occupation is not very long. I know when I was in high school 15 years ago, there were no high schools that had someone who is paid just do what I do. And so that right there just shows growth in and of itself. There's more opportunities being created. The majority of strength conditioning jobs usually are at the collegiate and the professional level, and those often require grueling graduate assistantships or internships where you're not getting paid and you're doing a lot of the grunt work, and you might not grow and develop as much. So the field is growing to where young people, if it's something they are interested in and enjoy, there's avenues of study, there's degrees to get, there's certifications to obtain, and there's jobs to have that are actionable jobs where you can actually do something besides just making smoothies and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
When I travel and meet with youth, I ask them a couple questions I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
What's your all-time favorite movie?
My all-time favorite movie is Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino.
Where do you like to go on vacations, or where is that one place you want to go to where you've never been to?
So I don't have a big travel bug, so I don't have a place that I've always dreamed of going, but I love the beach. I don't care if it's Galveston, Alabama, Florida, or Aruba. But I like where sand meets water, where everybody's moving a little bit slow, where no one's in a hurry to get anything done. I'm naturally a very high energy person. I'm kind of always going. So when it's time for vacation, I like a place where nobody's expecting anything to happen. The beach is my favorite spot to travel to.
One last question I ask is, ethnically, where do you think I'm from country-wise?
So I grew up in Flower Mound, Texas. And so I can sense an accent that I would guess that you are from somewhere near, if not directly in, the subcontinent of India. But I could be wrong. I'm just working that based on an accent, but that's because where I grew up, I had a lot of Indian people around me. And so I think I'm confident in your tongue, but also I'm not 100% certain. I wouldn't bet any money on it. But India or a surrounding country, maybe somewhere north of India, is where I would guess.